Today on CityCast Chicago, we ate so much good food in the city this year. So today we're talking about 2024's best new restaurants, favorite dishes, and what we're looking forward to in 2025. And pro tip, maybe don't listen on an empty stomach. It's Wednesday, December 11th. I'm Simone Alicea in for Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. So today, Jacoby's going to be talking with the Infatuation's Adrienne Kane and John Ringer. But I wanted to hop in because we're in our end-of-year membership campaign, and I want to explain why it's important. This may be obvious, but Chicago is a really big city, and it's so easy to get stuck in our little corner of it, visiting the same spots, hearing the same stories, talking to the same people. Here at CityCast Chicago, we're not just trying to keep you informed about what's happening, we're trying to help you understand the whole city, hearing from people who don't live in your neighborhood, whose experience of the city is different from yours. To be honest, it's a lot of work, but we love doing it. One of my favorite moments is when listeners say, "Oh, I didn't know that," or "I hadn't thought about it that way." If you've ever had one of those moments, listening to the show or reading the newsletter, you should really consider becoming a member at membership.citycast.fm. Members are investing in the future of CityCast Chicago, making it so we can continue bringing you these moments and helping you find new things about the city that we love. To be honest, I think that's a pretty good reason to join. But as a little added extra incentive, if you join this week, you will get an exclusive CityCast Chicago tote bag. So don't wait. Head to membership.citycast.fm and become a member today. Thanks so much for listening. And to everyone who's already become a member, we are so appreciative. Thank you so much. That's all I wanted to say. Now Jacoby's going to pick it up and talk about some amazing food.
Through my photos and videos for 2024, the thing that keeps coming up is the dishes that I tried in and around the city of Chicago. I probably ate at, north of 50 restaurants, which to me feels like a lot, but to our guest today is probably barely scratching the surface. Y'all, welcome back our friends from the Infatuation, Adrienne Kane. Adrienne, welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Great to be here.
And John Ringer. John, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having us again, Jacoby. Happy to be back.
John, I got to start with you. Last year, you told me that you had eaten at some 370 different restaurants. That was your 2023 tally. So I got to know, what's the number for 2024?
So 2024 fell a little bit short of that. I am at 368 for this year.
What? We are talking on like the second week of December, which means you still got a little over 2 weeks to add. Are you settling with 368 as your final number, or are you going to use these last couple of weeks to push past that?
Oh, no, we got time. I'm still eating. Break doesn't start until last week of December. So,
Adrienne, do you track how many restaurants you go to as thoroughly as John?
I do not. And now I'm going to add wellness checks for John into my to-do list.
Let's just think about 2024 restaurants in Chicago. Adrienne, what was the best thing you ate in the city this year?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, there were a lot of really great stuff, but for me, the standouts have to be the shrimp taco at Marisca's San Pedro. I don't know if you've been there, but it's a Mexican seafood restaurant in Pilsen, and that taco was incredible. It had this layer of crispy cheese, this incredible salsa matcha. The shrimp was cooked perfectly. The handmade tortillas. I absolutely adored it.
Oh, no. I loved every bite of it. I took a picture of it that I still look back and think of. I also loved their wood-fired camarones. They were a bit messy. Like, if you're going to give me camarones, I like the presentation, but like de-shell it and then just kind of slide it back in. Don't make me sit there and get all of that up under my nails. You got
to get in there.
I appreciate it, but like maybe do a little bit more work for your boy.
It needs to have a disclaimer, like, do not come here on a date and order the camarones. So like, this should be like one of those little like symbols next to the dish to warn you against it.
Like, this one gets messy.
This one gets messy.
I absolutely adored it. We have talked about Mariscos San Pedro on the show because it sits in the same building as Talia Hall, right above Punch House. And so it really is like a 3 or 4 for 1 location when you pull up there. And that restaurant is on a lot of people's list. John, what about you? When you think about the best thing you ate in Chicago this year, what's that for you?
It's kind of a tie for me, and they're both corn related. My first one is this Huitlacoche ravioli from this Mexican tasting menu spot called Carino in Uptown. And it's this unbelievable pasta dish with basically every form of corn imaginable. It's got the Huitlacoche inside. It's got this fried corn silk. It's got like freeze-dried corn, popcorn, and then this awesome truffle foam. And you think it's going to be like too corny, but it's not. It's like so balanced.
Yeah, sweet corn has made it in a few of my top dishes this year. What was another one on your list?
Yeah, so the other one is also corn related. This one's from Santa Masa Tamaleria in Dunning, which is, it's amazing. They have these incredible tamales, but my favorite one was this strawberry dessert tamal where it's just like very like, not too sweet, but just enough strawberry flavor, a little bit of powdered sugar. And it was so fluffy. It was almost like eating like a very light cake, but made out of masa. It was delicious.
Oh my God, I'm already hungry. Let's think about some of the biggest openings happening in the year. One of the great things about Infatuation is you all put out so many different amazing lists to follow along. Hot restaurants for dates, best new spots. And so I want to start there. Adrian, what were some of your favorite restaurant openings in the city in 2024?
Oh, wow. There are so many, but one of my favorite was Maxwell's Trading, which is in like Fulton Market. It's just got this like wild menu with a ton of different influences. Particularly, they have this like bruleed sweet potato vegetable thing that is just so good. And actually, speaking of sweet potatoes, Bracero is another place that I really liked that opened. I don't know if you've been there or not, Jacoby, but
I have been to both of the places you've named, and I've had the clay pot mushroom rice at Maxwell's Trading. And I think the best thing I ate this year, and I've tried to really think about it, but I'm pretty sure it was the steak with the Bracero salt and the chimichurri. That cut it just melted in my mouth. That was probably the best thing I tasted this year.
you know, that was such a great steak. And it reminded me of why, because it's from the chef who has El Che, which I'm sure, you know, that like Argentinian steakhouse. And it reminded me of how much I love El Che because they do know how to work a piece of meat. I'm just going to say it.
So Bracero, Maxwell's Trading. What was your favorite thing at Maxwell's Trading?
Besides the sweet potato, I also like the clay pot rice. And I don't know if it's on the menu anymore, but they had this griddle bread and like dip. But the dip was a very like interesting play on French onion dip, you know? And the bread itself was like a really kind of denser version of a scallion pancake. And the combination, I found it very satisfying, very like, it was like a sort of Midwestern influenced thing, and it tasted delicious.
Hey, if you're listening to this and you're trying your best to keep up with all these menus, all of these spots, we got you. If you look in our show notes, we'll have links to all of these spots.
Hi, David Plotz here. I'm the CEO of CityCast, and I'm here to ask you to become a member of CityCast in your city. CityCast is doing something no one else has ever tried. We're building a network of daily local podcasts and newsletters in cities around the country. My CityCast colleagues and I passionately believe that cities are incredible and that we can make them even better. So that's why we've got amazing, super local daily podcasts and newsletters made by locals, for locals in 13 cities. Little by little, every day, we're making our cities a little bit kinder, a little bit more interesting, more joyful, more informed. But this isn't easy or cheap. We've got 5 full-time employees just in your city. If you become a member, Your financial support will help keep us bringing you what matters in your city. The news and events, the stories and controversies, the lists of the best ice creams and worst intersections. Please become a member today at membership.citycast.fm.
John, dozens and dozens of restaurants opened in Chicago. What were some of your favorites?
So one of my favorites is a place that, according to my restaurant tracker, I've been to 16 times this year.
Oh my God. That's off the clock visits. So you know he loves it if he's not just going there for infatuation research.
So the spot is Akahoshi Ramen in Logan Square. I love ramen. And this is a place that basically grew out of this frequent ramen pop-up that was showing up in Chicago, and they finally opened up their brick and mortar. And the thing that keeps bringing me back there is, they have, a small menu of staples that are always there, but they have a rotating monthly special. And it goes anywhere from like very, very simple dipping ramen to this month's special, which is this king crab butter corn ramen that was insane.
Back to the corn dishes. It's feeling real Illinois Midwest up here. I love it.
Year of corn, I guess. But yeah, Akahoshi Ramen is probably one of my favorite openings from this year.
Can I ask, what is special about the way they do their ramen, at least to you? I imagine you tried a bunch of different spots in the city. I know they have the monthly special, but what is it about the way they make it?
Yeah, I think there's just such a balance to the broth that they do there. And it's an insane attention to detail. It's one of the places where I feel like from the very first time that I went to now, there is a constant growth from each visit. And also they have incredible house-made noodles. And almost every single ramen bowl that they have has a different noodle that they make specifically for that dish. And it's that attention to detail that really just gets me going,
I love it. Before we keep going, any other restaurant openings this year that y'all want to show some love to?
Well, I got one. And it's one of the more recent openings. It's Parachute Hi-Fi, basically the revamped version of beloved Parachute in Avondale. Now it is a listening bar. I feel like the cocktail game at Parachute has always been great, but there are some really interesting cocktails coming out of this one. One is almost like a straight up dessert. It's basically a play on Korean shaved ice, bingsu. And this one, they make it boozy with makgeolli. So you eat it with a spoon and you're getting some sweetness with a little bit of booze. It's nice and balanced. And some of the bar snacks that they have going on over there too are like really good. They have these really delicious enoki mushroom like tofu pockets that's like perfect for snacking on while you're grabbing a drink, and you have some awesome rotating like vinyl playing. It's a great spot.
I think for me, one of my like low-key favorites is Oliver's in the South Loop. It's just such a great spot for that neighborhood. I don't know if there were like a lot of options for the South Loop. We could go and have a great meal and have a date and have just like a nice catch-up dinner and some cocktails and some like really good food in an environment that just feels kind of sexy. And I really appreciate that.
Hey, I want to give a shout out on that same note to a couple other places in South Loop that opened this year. One being Signature Lounge, which has been a good place for me and my friends to go and watch a game. Me and Taylor have been able to pop over on just like an evening, like a Wednesday night. Good place to get like a quick meal. And then one place I really want to try is ETC. Which comes from the chef, one of the chefs behind Bronzeville Winery. And I look at their menu and the oxtail and grits. Look, John started screaming. He's like, I bet he's about to say oxtail and grits. Hell yeah. Oxtail. Yes. The minute I saw it, I was like, I'm pulling up. I'll see y'all soon. And then the Mississippi catfish dip. I don't think I've ever heard of a catfish dip. Like I've heard of crab dip. but never a catfish dip. And so I'm really excited to get over there. It looks like South Loop options have been growing this year. And so I got to pop in.
When did that place open?
So it just opened like a couple weeks ago.
I was going to say at the end of November.
So with our best new restaurants list, we go from October to October. So if this place is as much, like if it's as great as like Bronzeville Winery, it will definitely be a contender for our 2025 best new restaurants list. So you'll have to fight us for the oxtail and grits, Jacoby.
Hey, I'm always down to try somebody's mac and cheese, collard greens, Brussels sprouts. And so they got Nacho Grandma's banana pudding. When people start saying things like Nacho Mama, Nacho Grandma, Nacho Uncle Buck, like it makes me, you know, you got to live up to it. But I do appreciate when people's like, screw your grandma, my banana pudding is better. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, they're just like, oh, you got a lemon cake recipe been passed down for 7 generations? Screw your mama. Mine's better. Like, all right. Moving from all of the bright spots across the city that have opened up, we know that the restaurant business can be a fickle beast, right? It's one of the hardest to maintain for a number of reasons. John, were there any closures that really hit you hard this year?
Yeah. I mean, two of the closings that hit really hard for me are just spots that are really close to home for me here in Rogers Park. The first is this local Korean breakfast diner, Susie's Noon Hour Grill. That was like one of the very first places that I started going to after moving into the neighborhood. And Susie was a powerhouse. She's still around, but she retired. Powerhouse of a woman who basically ran the whole joint like all on her own. She was the busser. She was the chef. She was the one taking all of the orders and dealing with, you know, all of the checks. Like, she was awesome. And it was always great to just walk in, maybe slightly hungover, and nurse yourself back to life with a bulgogi omelet. And then another spot in Rogers Park that closed is Archie's Cafe, which is, it was like such a huge community builder. It brought together a bunch of longtime Rogers Park residents, a bunch of new Loyola students, and there was drinks, food, live music. It was a great place for local bands to kind of show off what they've got. So those are the two spots that I'll probably really miss just because they're so close to home for me.
The one that I miss the most, and it's still very soon, so this feels very raw, is we lost Taqueria Chignon, which was one of my favorite, like, I just loved that place. And, you know, I fell in love with it during the pandemic, and, you know, I was just really sad to see it close. But its spirit does live on in Marisco San Pedro and Obelix, because it's kind of owned by the same group. So I was really bummed to see that, just because I really love Taqueria Chignon. And then I think the other one for me is Parachute. And I know that they have Parachute Hi-Fi, but I was, you know, I know that restaurant, I just always kind of felt a little, I was just sad, just end of an era type thing, you know, when it closed. I know it's reconcepted, but, you know, it was a bummer.
A couple of places that kind of hit me or my family. My mom loves going to Uncle Julio's. That's where we spent her birthday in 2023 and this year. And when we found out that they were closing, she was hit particularly hard by that. I believe some of their suburb locations are still open, but the River North spot was absolutely one of her favorites. She talked about it at least a few times a year. And then there was a restaurant in Harper Court called Jade Court. It was a small Cantonese restaurant that when I lived in Hyde Park, I feel like they opened during the pandemic, and it just always felt like it was tough to get it up. I never saw it sort of packed with people. And I stopped at that window and ordered food at least 6 or 7 times while I lived in the neighborhood for that few years. And it was one that I was always hoping picked up because it was just so cool to see the mix of restaurants inside of Harper Court. But as that space has developed out, it was one of the restaurants that didn't make it in an area that is growing. I know Chef Eric just opened Cantina Rosa maybe 50 yards away from Jade Court. And so, again, it's a tough business. And that was one that I'm hoping the team behind them find another opportunity, if not in that neighborhood, and another one in the city.
Jade Court always had like great shrimp dumplings and also like sumai. Like I love that spot.
I will say Podolanka, that Polish restaurant that was around for about 40 years. They had great pierogies, and it's always sad when a stalwart leaves. You know what I mean? And we've lost, a lot of like Polish restaurants have kind of like moved out of the city or closed. And so it was kind of a bummer to see that go as well. I also loved its like dive bar energy that it had. So that one was sad.
Well, we're not going to leave people on that note. Speaking of some positive experiences, but maybe some that caught us off guard or shocked us a little bit. What was maybe the most surprising restaurant experience you had? One that you didn't expect to maybe blow your mind. John, I'll start with you.
Yeah. Honestly, I have to go back to corn. Like hitting up Santa Masa Tamaleria. Like I read a few like write-ups about it and everybody was saying it was really good. And I knew it was a very successful pop-up. I just didn't know how good like they could elevate these tamales. And it just opened up this whole world for me that I need to get back there ASAP.
I would say there's probably two. I'll start with one was Anelia, which is like a Ukrainian restaurant that opened in Avondale that I just really, really loved. And when I was reading the menu, these were not, we're always open-minded, but like I don't usually get like cartwheely around borscht or something like that. But like, I just, I was kind of like, but I ended up loving it. I found it to be really exciting. I loved all the flavors. I loved the like vibe of the place. They have this little appetizer cart that's just a ton of fun. And so that place really surprised me. And it's one of those restaurants that I'm rooting for because whenever I do go in, it's not quite as, poppin' as I would like it to be, but I think they always deliver. And the other one was kind of on the other end of the spectrum was Tredita, which I don't know if you've been there yet, Jacoby, but it's an Italian restaurant in the St. Regis Hotel. And I was like, what is this place going to be like? And it ended up having, I was expecting a very like formal sort of elevated experience. And it does do all that. They're white tablecloths, but the best things there were these really homey pastas. You could go there and you could get the real expensive steak, or you can sit there and just get this like incredible al dente cacio e pepe, which is like very simple and really delicious. And so I was really surprised about that.
Mine is going to come out of Washington Heights / Roseland, and it's Lior's Cafe. It's a fine dining Haitian restaurant that opened maybe a little over a year ago, and they have a pulled goat pot pie. And it's pulled goat and a creamy mushroom sauce. They got a flaky, buttery crust. And that's one that I really want to put people on, because when we start thinking about Roseland, Washington Heights, Pullman towards the far south side, people often aren't thinking of fine dining restaurants in those neighborhoods. They're often not only some of the most disinvested from just having basic resources in the community, but oftentimes like restaurants that come in and stick around can be hard to find from neighborhood to neighborhood. And so I'm really excited for the entire team around Lior's Cafe. They also have a brunch menu, and then some of the art on the wall is painted by Chicago-born muralist like Ramon Static. And so it's a great place to not only eat, but great art. And then the chef and all the people who work there are so nice. And so that's when I put on people's radar going into the next year. Speaking of spots you want people to try going into 2025, we have covered a ton of restaurants, a ton of amazing dishes. But what's something not only on your wish list, but one you really want other people to try next year?
Ooh, well, I'm really looking forward to trying. It's not quite open yet, but Cafe Yaya from the Galit team. It's going to be their like more casual Mediterranean spot. I cannot wait to try it. If the pitas are half as good, I know I'm going to love it. And then there's you know, there's a rumor around the infatuation that I happen to love desserts. That rumor might be true. And there is a like dessert focused restaurant opening called Haven from the pastry chef of the SKY team. And I'm very excited about that.
I know SKY was moving from Pilsen to, was it Lincoln Park?
Yes.
Is that transition still ongoing?
So I think last I checked, they were planning on having the move take place in March. So they're still going to stick around in Pilsen for a little bit.
Okay.
But I think spring is around when the changeover is going to take place.
Got it. So Adrian, on your list, Cafe Yaya, Haven. John, what about you? What's something that's on your list for 2025?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I know Cantina Rosa is open already and I haven't checked it out. So I still gotta, plan a visit there. But a spot that I have had some of the food from because they do like a pop-up at this coffee shop called Side Practice is a Del Sur Bakery. So it's basically a bunch of Filipino-inspired pastries. So you got, your longanisa croissants, you got your ube Danish, or I know for like Christmas, they were doing like a ube kringle situation that I unfortunately was not able to order. But I am looking forward to that bakery opening up in Ravenswood.
A couple of spots that I'm really excited to try in 2025. I'm going to start with Mira because it was one of the hardest places for me to get a reservation this year, and say I already have a reservation for January 24th. Date night is already planned. It's hard to get a Friday or a Saturday in there. And so that's a place I'm really excited to stop by. They're doing like Latin and Indian food together, laksa baked oysters, lamb barbacoa biryani, which since I first saw their menu, like when I get there, they was like, have you ever been here? No, but I already know what I want. Like that's kind of the energy and the vibe that I'm bringing to Mira when I go. Have either of you all been yet?
Oh, yeah.
Is it worth
Both of us.
the hype and the one of the best new restaurants in the country?
Yeah, you definitely need to check it out. Please report back. You should actually go on our site, look at our review, and like you could just order our food rundown. We'll tell you what to get.
Yeah, you got to get the scallop taco.
Oh,
Definitely
yeah.
get that.
Please do. And I think that they do a really good job. They also have a Camerones prawn situation happening that is a date night killer. So you might want to like go there by yourself and order it. But it's delicious, but you will get wet. Just saying.
Another place that I'm really excited for, which opened up in the South Shore Cultural Center in the last couple of months, was Nafsi. I really want to get over there and try their grilled shrimp, their white bean hummus, and their char grilled oysters with the Creole garlic butter. The South Shore Cultural Center has not had a dining presence in it for quite some time. And so it's just another way to bring people out to one of, in my opinion, the most beautiful buildings in the entire city. And so Nafsi and Mira are definitely two I'm going to try to get out of the way in January. My hope is that I'm not having the same conversation with y'all this time next year.
We're going to hold you accountable. This is an accountability session, Jacoby. That's what this really is.
So after all of that, new restaurants, amazing new dishes, on a scale of 1 to 10, how does 2024 stack up against all the other years you've been doing this? Adrian, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, wow. That is hard. I will say we love a scale. We have a rating scale. I'm going to do a scale here. I would say this was about an 8 on a 1 to 10. It was a really, really good year for dining. I thought it was really exciting. I feel like places are getting back in a full swing. So that's where I would put it. How about you, John?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been doing this as long as you have, but I feel like it's like between an 8 and a 9 for me. And I think it's for the same reason that it feels like we're on the come up. Like, I feel that restaurants are really back on it. And I don't know, I just ate a bunch of really good stuff this year.
They're taking swings. I feel like restaurants are taking swings this year. You know what I mean? Like they aren't playing it quite as safe. even just describing Mira, like some of these combinations and like leaning into something like Eastern European food, which hasn't had like an innovative presence in Chicago. It's had a really strong presence in Chicago, but like we haven't seen like a lot of...
But a very classic, very traditional presence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So things like that has just been really exciting to see, especially when it's executed well. I mean, we always love when they try, but it's even better if they try and it's good, right? So... that's part of, maybe I'm going to raise it. I'm going to a 9 now, John. You
Come on. That's what I'm talking about. I want to give a huge shout out to our guests today, John and Adrian from The Infatuation. I appreciate both of y'all making time for us.
Of course. Thank you so much. This was always a lot of fun, and today was no exception.
Thanks for having us, Jacoby. Always great to chat with you guys.
Executive producer Simone Alicea here, just back with a gentle reminder that our end of year campaign is underway. You know the drill. Become a CityCast Chicago member to support journalism that connects our city. And I know you know where to do it, but just in case, go to membership.citycast.fm right now to join. If you're already a member, thank you. We truly could not do this work without you. And some good news to get you through. One of the spots that John mentioned, Carino in Uptown, is the newest spot in Chicago to earn a coveted Michelin star. Reviewers even mentioned that corn ravioli dish. So if that's not yet another reason to check it out, I don't know what is. And if you're listening to this and you're like, Simone, I'm kind of over the food news. I'm also over the traditional holiday happenings. I got an event for you. Check out the Haunted Holidays event happening at the American Writers Museum tonight. You can find that and tons of other events on our events page at chicago.citycast.fm. Thank you so much for listening. Jacoby will be back tomorrow. We'll talk to you then.